Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Teixcalaan Duology by Arkady Martine, and those books include A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace. This is going to be a completely spoiler-free review, and I'm only going to be talking about the themes in both books and the technology that is available in the first book. To give you a brief pitch of A Memory Called Empire, this is the story of Mahit Dismer, who is the ambassador for Liesel Station to the Teixcalaan Empire. She is summoned to the capital city after her predecessor was murdered to try to discover why he was murdered and by whom. And little does she know that she is about to be drawn into a political game that she seemingly doesn't have anything to do with, but which she will play a huge part. A Memory Called Empire can be poetic and flowery at times, but trust me when I say that the meat and potatoes of the intrigue and the solid plot are definitely here. The names of the characters in this series are particularly unique. So the stationers, their names aren't that odd. They just have a lot of hard consonant sounds. So you have Mahit Dismer and Teixcalaan and Aknel Omnardbat, which, okay, that's pretty standard sci-fi fare. The Teixcalaan, on the other hand, always have names that begin with a number and end with a noun. So some examples from this series would be 3 seagrass, 12 azalea, 19 adze, 8 antidote, 9 hibiscus, or 16 moonrise. And the craziest part is eventually all of those names start to make perfect sense. And that's part of the reason why I ended up favoring A Desolation Called Peace just a little bit more, is because when I picked this up, I understood the way that the universe worked already, and reading this felt like getting a warm hug from an old friend, versus reading A Memory Called Empire, which felt more like trying to learn a new language, which is probably a bit hyperbolic, but that was the best comparison, the best analogy that I could make. The main theme of A Memory Called Empire is cultural imperialism. So the Teixcalaan Empire is a very hungry empire. It is constantly trying to absorb new planetary systems and new cultures into itself so it can continue to grow. And in doing so, every culture that it brings in, it kind of takes over and dominates. For them, you either exist in their world or you don't, and if you exist outside of them, then you're considered a barbarian and you're not even human. It's very Native American meets conquistadors. Whereas A Desolation Called Peace is more focused on what it means to be a person, how important individuality is, and how language allows us to both understand and be understood in return. I felt like A Desolation Called Peace really expanded on the world building. It had a lot more depth and there was definitely more adventure. Very briefly, I'm going to talk about some of the technology that exists in this world. So I'm going to talk about imagos, infofiche, and cloud hooks. Imagos by far were my favorite piece of technology from this series, and what they are is it's this little device that gets embedded into the base of somebody's brainstem, and it records their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their skills, their decision making, and it tracks all of it so that when that person dies, it can then be implanted into the person that comes after them. And it's always very job specific. So if you're a miner, you're going to have a miner's imago. If you're a pilot, you'll have a pilot's imago. If you're an ambassador, you have an ambassador's imago. And it's really cool because they can track like 14 generations of memory and thoughts and feelings. But as you can imagine, there are some issues that come with that as well, because sometimes the person who inherits an imago can't handle it, and they have to go through special therapies and training in order to be able to not be consumed by all of these other personalities. Cloud hooks are very different. What they are is it's kind of a computer monocle that sits over somebody's eye, and it's constantly feeding them data. And with the people who wear cloud hooks, you can kind of imagine it like somebody who is addicted to looking at their phone, because if somebody ever takes their cloud hook off, they feel very exposed and naked and alone, and they don't necessarily know what to do with themselves. And I just thought that that was really kind of funny because we already see people exhibiting that kind of behavior today. And then infofiche sticks. The reason I'm even bringing these up is because I find them charmingly archaic for a civilization that has the ability to travel to other planets and through essentially like wormhole gateways to other places. But what they still do is they communicate on these little sticks where they'll write each other messages and they seal them with wax and they send them like mail to one another, and all you do is you crack them open and it essentially displays the message in light that you can read in front of you. And I just think it's really funny to imagine in the far distant future that we're all still just sending each other mail. I really enjoyed the brilliance of the characters in these books, though sometimes there were things that happened that I was like, why are people doing the things that they're doing? I don't get it. This to me doesn't make any logical sense. And honestly, that's just politics. When everybody's out for themselves and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get what you want, sometimes people will do things even when it's just an absolutely horrible idea. The first book definitely focuses more on Mahit because this entire book is from her perspective and how she is coping with being inside the Empire and constantly just trying to survive. Whereas A Desolation Called Peace is so much more than the perspective of just one person. This is about civilizations, the thoughts and feelings have so much more depth. This book, in my opinion, was just better than the first one. Not by a huge margin, because the first one's still really good, but the second one is definitely my favorite. With the constant backstabbing and trying to learn people's motives, I felt that both of these books went by pretty quickly because there's always something going on. There's really not a dull moment. And I could definitely see myself rereading these again in the future. I would highly recommend that you pick these up. I gave A Memory Called Empire 4.5 stars and A Desolation Called Peace 5 stars. And I would also love to hear whether you have already read these, because if you have, I want to know what your feelings were. Did you like them as much as me? Did you not enjoy them as much? And if not, how come? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, that you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.